statement of authority so that we know by what authority they come. Have you heard of anybody ever telling you anything about all legal documents or all authorities having an enacting clause? So if you've been on my channel for a while, you've heard me talk about enacting clauses and how important they are. If you're new here, you may not have ever heard of it before. And that's because it's not taught in schools. It may not even be taught in law schools. Apparently, according to some people who've done the research, law schools don't really teach law, not real law. I think they teach case law, which is policy. So, why is it so important to know what an enacting clause is? An enacting clause is important because it tells you right up front, at the very beginning of any document or any speech, whether or not you have to or should listen to anything this person says. Are they full of shit? Are they an actual authority instituted by the people? Are they a fake authority? You can always tell by looking at or listening to the enacting clause. So when we go into courts, what is their authority? Where is the place to document that they claim to get authority from? And does that authority have a proper enacting clause? And if it has an enacting clause that looks proper, who are the people that gave it the authority? Or who are the people that originally wrote that enacting clause? And did they have the authority behind it? So if I come to you and I say, well, I have the power to do this, and here's my enacting clause, and I say some nice sounding words, that doesn't automatically mean I have authority. It may mean I have no authority at all and I'm just spouting a bunch of bullshit. At which point you would say, well, you're not one of the people that we have given authority to, so even though you come to us with this nice wording, we don't have to listen to you. So you can see enacting clauses in our organic laws. Without an enacting clause, you can rest assured that the person claiming some authority has none. If they had authority, they would have a proper enacting clause and proper organic documents. And not just some sort of fictional documents made up that sound nice, but actual organic laws instituted by the people of the time who instituted and brought forth that document, or that document showing the type of government or the thing being instituted and what exact powers they have. Exact powers is P with a capital, is power with a capital P, just like it's written in the Constitution. They're specific. It's a specific noun, not a common noun, a specific noun on power, meaning it's very specific and limited and well-defined power. That's why those words are capitalized, because they're limiting words. They're words of a limitation. They're proper nouns. The enacting clause for the United States is in the Articles of Confederation. The enacting clause for the power that the people instituted for themselves is in the original state constitutions. The enacting clause of the federal government for the exercise of powers in the states over the federal lands are in the state of constitutions. So you had the people erected their state, created a republic. So, for example, Texas, we created a Republic of Texas Constitution. And we, in that Constitution, wrote our enacting clause. And this was the document that we gave authority for us in our state, for our government. And then when we joined the Union, there was created another Constitution, which was the Constitution State of Texas, with an enacting clause made in conjunction with the Republic of Texas Congress and the Federal Congress, because the the Republic of Texas Congress approved the authorities of the federal government over the federal people and the federal lands inside Texas. So there's supposed to be a synergy between Republic of Texas, meaning us people, the civilians, and the military, who's under the federal government on federal lands inside Texas. There's supposed to be a harmony between them, which is the laying out of the jurisdictions. So the Republic of Texas allowed state of Texas, which is the federal government, to come into our state only if they abided by these rules, which are stated in the state of Texas Constitution. So recently I was listening to, I think it was Colonel Davis. He's retired Army Colonel, I think. And he'd said something about Trump giving a speech, and said that Trump said that he was speaking as the executive of the United States of America. That is Trump's civil office. Civil constitutions, or constitutions for us civilians, not federal, are different and have a different enacting clause and are on different organic documents than the federal documents or federal constitutions that are enacted to give authority or place authority over the federal people on the federal lands. And that's the military, okay? The military state is the state of Texas, is the relationship, it's the document, the state of Texas Constitution is the document that lines out the relationship between Texas, or the Republic of Texas, and the military inside Texas, the federal military. Because you have federal military, which is in the federal constitution, the Constitution of the United States, and then you have civil military, which are the militias. Each has their own constitution. The militia inside Texas is under the Republic of Texas Constitution, and it gets its authority from that. So if Governor Greg Abbott were to speak to the militia, he would say, by authority vested in me by the laws of the Republic of Texas, or the Constitution of the Republic of Texas, and then he would speak to the militia, or the militia would know, because of what he said, under the laws of the Republic of Texas or the Constitution of the Republic of Texas, the militia know automatically he's speaking to us. Okay, the militia. If he were to say, as the governor of the state of Texas, then the federal government would know he's speaking to them. He's speaking to the military inside Texas. He's speaking to the federal people. So there's different ways that we can speak, and who we're speaking to will know that we're speaking to them specifically because of how we word the beginning of what we're saying, by what authority someone comes, the enacting clause. You can speak it or you can say it. So when they say all to whom these presents may come, then they're making an announcement to the world, right? If they say we the people of the Republic of Texas, they're talking to the civilians inside Texas. If they say we the people of the state of Texas, they're talking about the federal people inside Texas. Okay, so the enacting clause is very important to know and understand, and that leads you to jurisdiction, that leads you to situs, status, standing, okay, and that brings us to authority. Who has authority over you? The federal government or state of Texas inside Texas has no authority over civilians except for very, very limited circumstances or situations, such as when there's a war or there's a riot and the federal military has been called in. Okay, so wars, even during wartime, the federal government has very limited powers over the civilian populations. In the Republic of Texas Constitution, it says that the civil power will always be higher than the federal or military power, or that the military will always be subservient to the civil power, something along those lines. And that is universal. Unless you're a stratocracy and the military is in charge of all the people, which we don't have here, then you have the civilian power, civilians, us, over the military. So when the president speaks as executive of the United States of America, he's speaking to civilians as the highest civil power in the country. When he says as commander-in-chief of the United States, he's talking to the federal government, to the federal people, to the military and all the civilians that work with or in the military. Probably not in, more so with the military, because civilians aren't in the military or they would be military. So if Governor Greg Abbott says as governor of the Republic of Texas, he's talking to the civilian people. And if he says as the governor of the state of Texas, he's talking to the military people or the federal people inside Texas. And it's the same with every state, the Commonwealth, or the this or the that or whatever. So enacting clauses are very important. It's important to know what document the enacting clause is in. It's important to know that when these politicians, governors, executives, or a military person speaks, it's important to hear and understand the words they're saying. And the words they're saying are attached to some document. If they're exercising some authoritative power, they're attached to some organic document that tells us that they are acting within the power that they were given in that document. When they say something else, when they say some other thing that doesn't sound familiar, or you can't find it in the document, they're acting without authority. They're acting outside of established and written law. And they do that, and a lot of them do that, and it's been done since the early Roman times. The Romans knew that when they were making policy, that there was something wrong with what they were doing. And that's why, because people knew there was something wrong with it, people knew they were acting outside of their authority, that's why they have to convince people through propaganda, through advertisements, through manipulation, through coercion, through their salespeople, whether it be agents, officers, military, police, whatever, politicians. They have to convince you to do the thing that they want you to do that's not an actual law. You can kind of see something of a enacting clause when you look at the way a code is written. There's a way to write a code that tells you this is in fact actual law coming from an authority like an organic law, and a different way to write it, any other way, that tells you this is not a law, you don't have to obey it, it's purely voluntary, but if you don't follow it, we're going to harass you and make your life miserable until you follow it. These are policies. They have to do it, otherwise you wouldn't do it. They have to basically harass you into following these laws that you don't believe in and don't want to follow, and cost you all this money, because if they didn't, you wouldn't follow the law. You wouldn't do it because it's not a law. All right, so think about it. Enacting clauses. Who ever taught you, besides me, what an enacting clause is, and that it's tied to organic laws, which are also tied to where you stand in a situation or what situation you're in. Because just because someone comes along and says, I'm the commander-in-chief of such and such, if I'm not in the military, you're not talking to me. Get it? So if a judge comes and says, by the authority invested in me by the state of Texas, okay, well, you're not talking to me then, because I'm a civilian. I'm not part of the federal government. I'm not in the military. All these statutes, codes, regulations, rules, all these things that you're passing as the state of Texas do not apply to me, because I'm not in that situation. I'm not a part of that group of people. I'm not in the military. I'm a civilian. And so your military documents, your United States documents, don't apply to me. So listen to this. How do you know when's federal or military? Federal is military, or when's civil? It's like Colonel Davis was saying, oh, I don't know why Trump felt the need to say it that way. I'll tell you why. Because executive of the United States of America is the president of the civil office, and commander-in-chief of the United States is the commander of the military office. And each office, civil, has its civil constitutions in the state, and each state has a military constitution in each of the states. So how do you know who they're talking to? By the words they say. And how do you know where they're getting their powers from? By the document. It's listed in the document. And the Constitution of the United States is a constitution that's a military constitution. Hamilton called it a military constitution. And someone else called it a military constitution. I don't recall who offhand right now. I don't know if it was John Adams or it was one of those founders called it a military constitution. It's in the congressional records being shown as a military constitution. It's the Constitution of the United States. The United States is the military. The United States has a president who is commander-in-chief. The United States of America, on the other hand, created the United States in the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation could never have been done away with, because it is what created the United States. The United States, the military, cannot exist without its creator to tell it constantly what to do all the time, to give it money, to to be the check and balance on it, to make sure it's spending money on what they wanted to spend it from, because the United States of America is the civil and the United States is the military. The military is always subservient to the civil. The military cannot do anything without the civil telling it what to do, without the civil giving it money and telling it where to spend the money, generally where to spend the money. And then the United States military decides we need to spend this much on this, we need to spend this much on this, we need to spend this much on this, which brings me then to this idea that the United States is going to run out of money and file a bankruptcy. The United States will not run out of money and file bankruptcy, not the constitutional United States, because the constitutional United States cannot spend money it doesn't already have. It was never supposed to be a debt-based system. It was supposed to be, here's your money, figure out how to spend it, go spend it, show us everything you spent it on, and give us the paperwork back saying what you spent it on. The civil government, the United States of America, gives a general mission to the military. And the military will say, we need this much money to do that mission. The civil United States of America will give the United States that money. The United States will put it all in its accounting record. And historically, that's what they did. We spent this much on it, down to the penny, down to the absolute penny. They would show where all the money went, and they would publish those records, and they were free to the public to view anytime. Because if they're getting the money from us, and we give the money to the United States of America, and the United States of America gives the money to its military, the United States, then we need to know, it comes back to us, where all the money went. So the United States of America is the civil, and it's supposed to be a check on the military. That's why the Supreme Court is supposed to be manned by judges that are civilian judges, not military judges. When sitting hearing cases involving the United States, the military. Okay, so enacting clauses and their organic laws. Each enacting clause has its own organic law. There were never any, we don't have that, we didn't create a constitution and now we don't have it anymore because we created a new constitution. That whole idea is a joke. It's a trick. It's a manipulation, propaganda. It's wrong. It doesn't exist in the system. It cannot exist in the way that they tell us in the system that was created by the founders. So enacting clauses, they're important to know. It's important to go back to your organic laws and see what the enacting clause is, what kind of people that enacting clause is for, and what kind of people that organic law was written by, and who they're supposed to be authoritative statements for, civilians or military. Okay, civilians, Republic of Texas or Republic of wherever, Commonwealth of whatever. The United States of America, all civilian. Military, federal, the United States. Okay, the Constitution of the United States is the military constitution. It's the Constitution of the United States. Of the United States. For the benefit of the United States of America. The states. Okay, it was created by the states for their benefit. Okay, so enacting clauses, learn them, know them, and then stand your ground once you figure it out, and don't let anybody who's not an authority over you pretend that they are.